Welcome to Go Solo Live.
Don't you mean go solo live? Have you ever been asked why on earth would you travel alone? Go Solo Live not only answers that question, but celebrates life as a midlife solo traveler. This is a safe place for women to come together to reminisce about their travels, encourage others to travel, and to dig into the real lessons learned from these journeys. Now join Jennifer Buchholz with Transform Via Travel as she and her guests share stories of the solo travelers of midlife women.
Welcome to Go Solo Live. This is Jennifer Buchholz with Transform Via Travel. Today, we'll hear from Anki of Anki On The Move. She'll share her stories of travels from India all the way to Milwaukee. I can't wait for you to hear about her perspective as a young woman traveling throughout the world. Stay tuned, and at the end of our show today, I'll be sharing some of the upcoming events that Transform Via Travel is excited to be a part of. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Go Solo Live with Jennifer Buchholz from Transform Via Travel. Today's guest is Anki, and she's going to share some of her travel stories. I can't wait for you to hear more about them. Welcome, Anki.
Hi, Jennifer. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So we're going to jump right into it. I would love to hear a little bit about how you started in your travel journeys.
Well, it started about 4 years ago. I was working for a 9-to-5 IT job for about 5 years, and I knew I didn't fit in, but I didn't know what else to do. So, I just wanted to change in lifestyle or career. Although I knew that I loved travel, I didn't know that I could pursue it as a passion. So I went on an all-India road trip with my brother, covering about 9,000 kilometers in 18 days, traveling from south of India to west of India to north of India, then going to east of India and coming back to south of India. And that changed my whole perspective. And I was I was totally started getting bored in my job. And I thought, why not just quit my job and start something completely new? So I started my travel and adventure blog, and it started very basic, just covering Bangalore, where I was staying at that moment, just covering, video logs of Bangalore and asking people what do they love about Bangalore, and covering places and events in Bangalore and stuff like that. And eventually, just because I hadn't planned it so much, I didn't have the funds to sponsor me. So I joined an adventure firm. So when I joined an adventure firm, I got to know about, how adventure is growing in India and who are the people who are behind adventure sports. What are the adventure sports in India? Is it safe or not? So I started interviewing the people who were behind adventure sports. Also started, doing a couple of adventure sports myself. And eventually I started traveling to further countries, either in collaborations or traveling solo. And then I started recording the experiences of those countries in my videos as well as my travel blog. And whenever I would go to a country, I would ask the people, what do they love about that country? For example, if I went to Spain, I asked people, on the road, just asking people, what do you love about this place? And they would tell me their own perspective. When I was traveling in Milwaukee, in Wisconsin, I asked the people. So I would make a complete comprehensive, video log on what are the places to go and what are the things to do, because people in India are still very unaware that you could actually travel in that way. So that's how I did it. And when I came back, I conducted a couple of meetups in India, and then there were a lot of travelers who came there. We would discuss that you could actually travel solo. You could actually travel to places that you haven't even heard of. You could actually take that leap of faith. And that is how I started my blog. It's called Anki On The Move. So that is how it was. And yes, I started growing it into a lot more avenues. Like, for example, right now my blog also talks about how do you corporate fashion when you're traveling, like affordable fashion. When you go to a place, you can buy affordable local stuff, which are genuinely from that place, and that actually adds onto the culture and relates more to that place. And also talking about travel gadgets and a couple other stuff. So that's how I started growing. Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. So you started actually traveling with your brother. How old were you when you were doing that?
I was about 29. It was just 4 years back. So yeah.
That's wonderful. So how was it traveling with your brother as you were trying to navigate kind of your own journey of figuring some of this stuff out, because there was really no roadmap you guys were trying to follow.
Yes, so traveling with my brother was complete different experience because my brother is as adventurous as I am, or if not more. And traveling in India by itself is an adventure. Like if you take a road trip all across India, in itself is an adventure. There are a lot of things which happen in between, and there are people who are going to help you. There are cultures that you get to know. For example, when we were traveling in north of India, there was this flooded area which we had no clue about, and our car got stuck. And then the locals came and we stayed in the villages. They made food for us, and we completely forgot what was the next thing to do. And we stayed with them, and then we moved ahead. So we grew. Gradually we went from one place to another. So that was a different experience. And when you're with your brother, you're completely safe. You don't have to care much about it. So yeah.
So as you've traveled in the States, you've been living over here in the States for how long?
It's about 1.5 years.
Okay. So as you've traveled in the States, have you also been traveling solo?
Not quite much. I am living with my hubby at the moment. So I'm traveling with my hubby ever since I came here.
Got it. So a lot of our listeners have been contemplating travel to India. And I'm certain they will be able to go to your blog, Anki On The Move, and be able to find out a lot of what your experiences have been. But since we have you on the podcast right now, what are some of the tips and tricks and the places that, are there must-sees on that list?
I think coming from US, India would be a little of a culture change, but in a very good and a different way. In a sense that when you go to India, like what you see from the outside, India as Bollywood, the filmy, how it is projected in the world. But when you go to India, there are a lot of festivals and cultures that you can indulge in. There are a lot of opportunities that you can actually enjoy. For example, if you're traveling in north of India, like north and northeast of India is perfect for road trips. The roads are very well made. The people are genuinely very, very friendly, and it's not even overcrowded. And a lot of places are not even being, hoarded by tourists. So those are the places like north. If you go from Kashmir to Ladakh, which is the road trip, which is a must do. So in that, it is like Kashmir is like a hilly region, and then Ladakh in itself is like a dry mountain, and it's kind of a very smooth transition which happens across the road. And then you can go to northeast of India, which is completely unexplored, and there are a lot of cultural activities which is happening in even northeast of India. People can go there. Then apart from that, one can also venture in probably touristic circuits, because if you're going for the first time to India, obviously you would want to see the Taj Mahal, you would want to see the colorful Jaipur and Jaisalmer, you would want to see the hippie crowd of Goa. So probably those are the things they should do. And apart from that, even the rest of India, whichever place you go, you will find a lot of culture and a lot of differences to kind of enjoy. And probably the best time to go would be festivals. Like you can go to Calcutta during Durga Puja, wherein they make statues of deities, and they make there something called pandals, which is like a home for the god, and they make a lot of these in all across Calcutta. So it's a beautiful place to go during festivals. You can go in Holi, where they play with colors, so that's also very enjoyable. You can go Diwali, that's also enjoyable. So I think festivals and I think pretty much all of India is, very, very different from one state to another. So I can't pin down one place to go to, but I would suggest take your time, go for 3-4 months and enjoy every part of India. That's how I would say it to be.
That sounds wonderful. So if there were women who were looking to travel alone in India, what would be your suggestions for them?
See, India is a little conservative country when it comes to travel. So the first thing I would suggest is not panic when you reach there, because if you have to align yourself with the culture. So be sure of how you're dressing yourself, because as a woman, it's important to feel safe than sorry. So when you reach there, be a little more conservative than how you are in US. Probably here you can wear, mini skirts and shorts, and you can just you can just go around. But in India, there are not many places where you can do so, except for the major cities and except for Goa. There are not many places where you can just walk around, because if you do so, it would be a culture shock for the other people as well, and they would stare at you, and leering at women does get a little uncomfortable. So first thing I would suggest is, if you're coming to India, make yourself properly dressed and then start wandering around. And then whichever place you go, like I would suggest going to the mountains is the best bet. Like if you go to north of India or northeast of India, those are the places which are where people do get a lot of outsiders, and they are more friendlier. So in those places, they would talk to you. You can stay with them. Even the rest of India is good, but mountains I would highly suggest for tourists who are going there. If you're going to touristic circuits, then also I would say that the only thing which I would say is, don't get over friendly. I think that goes for every country, right? Like, don't get over friendly, don't get too drunk, and I think those are the things that goes for every country when you're traveling. So those are the things that applies to India as well. Apart from the dressing, the same rules apply for India as well.
Makes complete sense. So,
Yeah.
so one of the things that you like to share on your blog has to do with fashion, and I appreciate you creating kind of that awareness of what it's like in India in terms of conservative dressing and things like that. What were
Yeah.
what was some of the other trends in fashion that you've noticed throughout your travels, especially through the US as you've been doing some of your adventure? What are you finding in terms of fashion?
A lot of travelers take fashion very casually. They would wear the casual clothes, and that's how it should be. But there's a lot you can experiment with fashion. What I said about India was that India is very good on colorful waistcoats. You can team up your tops with colorful waistcoat. You can wear ankle length trousers which has some embroidery. Or if you go to Bhutan, you have this dress called Kira and Tego, which is like a skirt, and then there's jacket. So that's what I meant by fashion is, whichever country you go to, there's always a culture. You should pick something from that place, and then you can, adorn yourself with that. Like when you're going to India, when you go to Gujarat, you have these Kutchi embroidery, which is famous worldwide. It's like beautiful, beautiful embroidery. You get tops, you get bottoms, so that you can get them. And when you're adventurous, obviously it's very important to wear the most comfortable thing, especially in India. I would suggest is, if you're taking local trains or local buses, it's very important to wear what is the most comfortable and not much revealing. So I would suggest, wearing colors which are a little dark, because India can get a little dirty and dusty. So those kind of things. And apart from that, fashion-wise, I would suggest that US has a little bit of more flowy fashion. People do wear a lot of flowy dresses and, skirts and stuff like that. India too has it in metropolitan cities, but not overall. So that's what the difference which I found between India and US.
Very good. Very good. So tell me how, you've been able to develop a business based on travel. And I know you said you never really thought that that was something that was going to be happening for you. I'd like to hear a little bit more about how travel has helped you with your personal growth, not just taking a shift for your career, but how has it helped you with your personal growth? What are some of the main lessons that you've learned through travel?
Yeah, so actually the thing is, when you're, for the first time, when you're venturing solo, there's a lot of things that you need to be aware of, because when you're traveling with your partner, or when you're traveling with your brother, or whoever you're traveling with, a lot of your responsibilities gets divided. But when you're traveling solo, you need to be a little bit careful about a lot of things. That makes you also stronger in terms of dealing with adversities of life. Like I would tell you one example. I went and backpacked Greece, and when I went there, it was all very fun trip, jolly and happy. I went to Athens. I enjoyed and stayed in hostels, enjoyed with people there. Then I went to Santorini. I went to all the popular places because I wanted to see them first. And then in Santorini, what happened that my ferry, which was supposed to go to Mykonos, the sea was very rough, so it got cancelled. The next day, the sea was rough, but ferry arrived. But when I went into that ferry, it was such a turbulent ferry. I could still remember it was the ride was about 1.5 hours, but it took us about 4.5 hours in the sea. And I was all by myself. Everything was tumbling down. And I was just praying, if something happens. So one of the biggest lessons I learned was that if you worry a lot, obviously your trip is spoiled. So if you're traveling solo, don't worry. Whatever happens, happens for good. So probably, those things come eventually within you when you start traveling. You start facing your fears. You know, initially I used to be a little, I shouldn't go to this place or that place. Now when I go to, I've been to a lot of conservative countries as well. For example, like Oman, I thought it was conservative, but when I went there, it's like the most rugged and off-roading country wherein, people just go for off-roading and do a lot of things. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. I never thought that Oman is going to be like that. So it changes a lot within you. It changes your perspective about the world. It opens up your mind so that you can talk to people about their cultures. And as soon as you connect with them, you realize there's a lot more common than we have as a difference. Like you go there, you see the differences, but you also realize there's so much common in the world. For example, when I went to Israel and, I was doing a bread making course, and then this lady, she took a little piece of bread out, and I asked, why was that? She said it was to offer to God. And the same thing happens in India. And I was like, wow, this is like, our world is so much connected. So yes, you do learn a lot of things. You do learn how to keep yourself safe. You do learn how to not fear a lot and just go with the flow, just to be happy and going with the flow.
Absolutely.
That's what I mean.
And so
yeah.
as you were going through those experiences, what about any experiences that, you had concerns about your safety? What were those experiences and how did you manage them?
So, yeah, there were actually a couple of them, which, it hasn't happened directly to me, but I've heard people I was staying in Athens. There was this girl, her bag got snatched. It hasn't happened to me personally, touch wood, till now. But then there are instances where it happens. Like suppose I was in Scotland, and there was this hotel where I was staying. This guy from, I don't know, from wherever, he tried to sneak in, and I had to complain to the hotel. These are the small little things, like I was walking in the dark and somebody tries to follow me. Then you just have to go in a place which is a little more crowded and those kind of things. So those are very small little things which has happened to me as a woman, and I think it happens to a lot of people anyways.
Absolutely. I think the issue isn't whether those things will happen or not. It's more about how do we deal with them, and how are we able to be resilient and have perspective on those kinds of things.
Yes. So I think the best way to avoid these things is just to be a little more cautious about these things. And if they keep on persistently happening, probably you should go to, like I said, I was being followed in Scotland, which is said to be one of the safest countries. I was just walking and I was being followed. Then I went in the crowd, and then I just, tried to avoid that person altogether. So these are very small little things which keeps on happening. For example, if you're traveling to Turkey, and Turkey has a lot of flirtatious men, and I would just want to tell people, because there's not much written on internet, but if you're traveling to Turkey, there are a lot of people, everybody, I think practically, if you're going to Spice Bazaar, if you're going to this market or that market, there would be a lot of people who would try to be over friendly. Everybody, I think, a lot of men, like very flirty men, and you have to be a little cautious with them. You have to keep your distance. So Turkey, I have had experience with Turkey, but then, eventually you do learn how to manage those kind of things. So yeah, nothing major has ever happened to me. All these small little things has, but then yes.
Well, that's wonderful. That's fantastic news, right?
Thank you. Yeah.
Very good. So tell me a little bit about, as you're now in your early 30s and you're living in the US and you are writing about your travels on your blog, who are the people that you're finding following you the most, and what are some of the questions and concerns that they're coming up with?
So, well, actually the thing is, for me, when I came to US, I had no idea about this place apart from I know that there's New York and there is Vegas and other stuff, but I had no idea how this place is going to be like. But ever since I came here, and living here is totally a different experience. So my readers are basically, I think about 60% of my readers are Indians, followed by US. So what I write mostly about is an Indian perspective of US. like when I came to US, what are the differences I found here? There are a lot of small little differences which I did find here. And, also what are the places which we can go? Like Wisconsin, I had never thought would be one of the best places that I travel to, because I can tell you that I had never thought that Wisconsin had northern lights, but I see northern lights in Wisconsin. So, I mean, a lot of things which I never thought of, I write about them, and people are like, okay, is this not a small place? Was that not a small place? I was like, yes, but it has a lot to offer. I mean, US as a whole has a lot to offer. So, I keep on writing about those in pointers. Like I went to Wisconsin, I went to Michigan, I went on a road trip from San Francisco to Los Angeles by Pacific Highway. So I wrote my experiences, and people do ask me, how the experience was, how much the costing is, because Indians in general are very particular about how much does it cost, is that a good place or a bad place. And there's not much awareness about small places in US, so I do write about all those small events and places. Like especially when I was staying in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I was actually working in collaboration with Visit Milwaukee, and I was also volunteering with them. So there used to be a lot of events throughout the year, a lot of festivals, and I would go there and I would interview people and I would write about all those festivals, and people would be like, oh, these are the festivals that happen in Milwaukee, because nobody knew that it is just like, there's so many things to do. So that's what I write in my blog about. And mostly it's Indians who do follow my blog as yet, but there are people from US who are also catching up with me, because, there are not many blogs to write about these small little things in US.
Well, now, I'm not sure if you actually put two and two together, but I am from and live in Milwaukee.
Oh, wow, that's cool. That's so nice to hear.
So I have checked out your blog, and you have written amazing things about our city, which is fabulous and makes me very, very happy. And I'm glad that you were able to have a good experience here. But you're right. Throughout our whole country, and of course throughout the world, there are so many unknown and untapped gems. So how did you get, a lot of my listeners are like curious about how they could even find an opportunity like you found with this opportunity with Visit Milwaukee. How did that come about for you?
Well, it was all by chance, because, I was actually trying to follow Milwaukee 365, which is their, official page. Then I thought, why not do something with them? And then I just went into their office and I was like, why don't we do something together? Why don't we go to the festivals? And it was a very huge change for me, because the events which are there on the page and the events which they used to send me, there were a lot more. So I was like, wow, this is also that happens. And I used to go there. So I think probably people should at least go and visit. I mean, they can go and visit and ask what is it. I mean, you have these visitor centers, right? For every, I think in New York also you have visitor center. In Milwaukee you have visitor center. So every place has a visitor center, which is run by the local tourism board. So you can go and ask which are the places, which are the festivals. I mean, you can just randomly go in and ask them. And they would be more than happy to help. And when I started volunteering, I was surprised. There's so many people who do that. And for small little events, and those are kind of very experiential events. For example, in Milwaukee, I went and attended Bead and Button Show, which is the largest consumer jewelry show in the world. And I didn't know about it unless I had registered for volunteering. And I was like, wow, I mean, that was a huge jewelry show in Milwaukee. So yes, I mean, I think I just, bumped in their office and that's how I got connected. But anybody can do that.
I love it. I think I'm actually also a volunteer for Visit Milwaukee. So I love that we have I know. I love that we've taken our conversation all the way from the parts of India where you grew up to parts of Milwaukee where I grew up. I mean, we've definitely covered all over the map, haven't we?
Yeah. I didn't know we had so much common.
It is funny. And I think that to me, actually, what you've just said is, not knowing what you have in common, starting a conversation with a stranger can lead to so many more similarities and opportunities to learn than conflict or danger or any of those things. And that's one of the things that's so important to me to encourage people when they're traveling is talk to locals, talk to people, and just be open and friendly, even if you don't even if the answer isn't something that you want to know, at least you've learned something, and then you just would choose not to do it.
Yeah, I believe when one is traveling solo, they are never, never, never solo. It's not that you're just traveling by yourself. You have the whole region which is there, who you can be friendly with, and they are going to help you. I mean, world is not as dangerous place as you told itself. Is not as dangerous, and every place you go to, I think you meet such nice people who you can interact with, you can learn from. I've learned the small things, like, when I went to backpacking to Maldives, that was like my first trip. I had never thought I would backpack because it's like one of the costliest places to go to. People go for honeymoons and stuff. And I went there. The ferries were very cheap, which locals took. And I interacted with women there. And I learned how to cook with them. And, and we danced with them on the sands and stuff like that. And
That's
even
awesome.
the men, they all were very friendly and nice. And I had never thought about this part of Maldives where people could dance and where people could, cook food together. That was a totally different experience. So unless you go and talk to locals, probably you wouldn't even get to know the in-depth of that culture. So I think that's the best part about travel.
I would agree. And we're both on the same page with that, which is wonderful. So
yeah.
One of the things that I like to give everyone an opportunity to do on the show is to share a little bit about your work. So make sure that our listeners would know where to find you if they wanted to follow you elsewhere.
So actually, I do blog at AnkiOnTheMove.com, which is my basic blog, wherein I write about travel and adventure sports. I have a YouTube channel, which is YouTube/AnkiOnTheMove, where I post my all YouTube videos. And then I can be followed on Instagram at /AnkiOnTheMove, Twitter at /AnkiOnTheMove, Facebook at /AnkiOnTheMove. So that's where people can follow me.
Perfect. And all of those links will be posted with the show notes. So everybody will have a chance to jump into those notes and make sure that they can find you in case they didn't catch that as we said it live. And Anki, thank you so much for taking the time to share with us today. I appreciate your perspectives. You certainly have been around the world, and I'm certain you have a lot more travels ahead of you.
Thank you so much. All the best to you too.
All the best. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Go Solo Live with Jennifer Buchholz and Transform Via Travel. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we look forward to your feedback. Tune in for another episode coming soon. Wasn't it great to hear the stories that Anki shared with us today? She echoed one of my main sentiments. It doesn't matter wherever you travel in the world, even if you're traveling alone, you're never really alone. There's a whole world of people out there waiting to interact with you. You just often have to make the first step. We've reached the end of today's episode. I hope you've been enjoying our guests and that you can relate to their stories. I want you to feel like you can sit down and enjoy a cup of coffee and some conversation about travel. The interaction doesn't have to stop there. Feel free to reach out to me at jennifer@transformviatravel.com to share your thoughts and feedback. Also, don't forget to review Go Solo Live. Wherever you found this podcast, just go ahead and post a review. I look forward to your feedback. For more information about how to take your own journey of self-discovery and upcoming events that Transform Via Travel has to offer, go to www.transformviatravel.com or facebook.com/transformviatravel. I look forward to connecting with you. Until next time, remember, you're solo, not alone.